The Statue of Liberty in New York Harbor is seen from the air. Flying to America, to New York and Washington, are the Prime Minister of Uganda, Milton Obote, the Secretary General of the Uganda People's Congress, John Kakonge, James Simpson, the Minister of Finance. On October 9th, 1962, Uganda became independent. Now, 2 weeks later, Prime Minister Obote travels to Washington at the invitation of the President of the United States. Washington, capital of a union of 50 states. 50 states stretching from the Atlantic to the Pacific Ocean, welcomes the Prime Minister of the new African nation, making his first trip abroad since his country gained independence. Prime Minister Obote is welcomed in the name of the President of the United States by Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs, G. Menon Williams. Also traveling with the Premier are Uganda's Minister of Justice, Grace Ibingira, and Uganda's representative at the United Nations, Apollo Kironde.
We are indeed very proud and happy to have you with us, and we want to congratulate you, first of all, on your accession to independence on October 9th, and wish you and your country a very happy experience, which I am sure that you will have. As you know, the United States has close to 200 years of independence, and during all of that time, we have supported the principle of self-determination, which you yourself have recognized in order to achieve your independence.
I'm very glad indeed that the President of the United States sent to me his very kind wishes during our celebrations. And indeed, I'm very glad indeed that he also took the opportunity to invite me to come to Washington.
In Washington, all affairs of state center on the White House. This is where the Chief Executive of the United States has his office and his residence. It is here that President Kennedy receives Prime Minister Obote as a leader of the new Africa. The President of the United States has said on many occasions that the tide of freedom now sweeping through Africa is a victory for free peoples everywhere, part of the great forward movement of the democratic world. Prime Minister Obote and President Kennedy meet privately for more than an hour. They discuss the future of Uganda. They discuss political and economic problems. Mr. Kennedy has a keen interest in Uganda's welfare. He assures Prime Minister Obote of America's continuing interest in the newly independent nations of Africa. At this historic mansion, facing the White House, the Prime Minister is the guest of the American government. Here, a luncheon is given in his honor by the President's brother, Attorney General Robert Kennedy, leader in the enforcement of laws, securing equal rights for all Americans. At the official residence, Premier Obote and his party meet with the representatives of the press. The Prime Minister tells the American reporters that the most urgent task for Uganda is to build more schools, homes, and roads, develop agriculture and industry. He also describes the natural beauty of his country, the Great Lakes and rivers, Lake Victoria and the Nile. This monument in the heart of Washington is dedicated to Abraham Lincoln, President of the United States 1 century ago, when secession and civil war over the issue of slavery threatened to dissolve the Union of American states. He is remembered as the savior of the Union, the great emancipator, the champion of freedom. The sculptured face of Abraham Lincoln looks out over the capital of this nation he summoned to the cause of freedom 100 years ago. In New York City, there is a monument of our own century and generation, the United Nations, where the peoples of the world affirm the need for a common effort to achieve peace and progress. On October 25th, Uganda becomes the 110th member of the United Nations. Acting Secretary General Uthan congratulates Prime Minister Milton Obote as the flag of Uganda is about to be raised in front of the United Nations headquarters. The crested crane is Uganda's national symbol. The colors are red for brotherhood, black for Africa, yellow for the sun. Representatives from every member state come to congratulate the Prime Minister of Uganda and his delegation. With the admission of each new member, the United Nations grows not only in numbers, but in experience and effectiveness. As one looks over the vast hall of the General Assembly, where Uganda has now taken its seat, there is added meaning in the opening words of the Charter. We, the peoples of the United Nations, determined to save succeeding generations from the scourge of war, to reaffirm faith in fundamental human rights, in the dignity and worth of the human person, in the equal rights of men and women, and of nations large and small.
I now take pleasure in inviting the Prime Minister of Uganda to make a statement.
Mr. President, Uganda got its independence without recrimination or hatred. We have tried to impart good sense, respect for law and order, to the newly independent people of Uganda. We have also tried to establish a condition where tolerance, discussion, and compromise were the characteristics of our struggle for independence.
To those who welcomed him in New York and Washington, Prime Minister Obote said, "We come to you with a big heart. We know that we have many friends." As Premier Obote flies home, his many friends in the United States and at the United Nations send with him their best wishes for Uganda.